Welcome, everyone, to People on Dating. I'm your host, Will Morales. And for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, this is a podcast about dating, ups and downs, and how to navigate through it. Today, my guest is Trina Stutzman. Did I get that
Yes.
last right? I should have asked
Yes,
you
you did.
before. So Trina is passionate about empowering individuals to live intentionally by choosing who they want to become. She's a sought-after life coach, author, and speaker. She holds credentials through International Coaching Federation and is a lay master. Did I get that right?
A minister? Yes.
Okay. It says a lay minister. Gotcha. Through Stephen Ministries. She holds a certificate in family business advising through the Family Firm Institute and is a Reiki Master.
Reiki Master.
Reiki
Yes.
Master. Geez, I butchered that, but I'll still leave that in the show. This way, people know that I am human. Well, Trina, thank you so much for being on People on Dating. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on your show. It's an
Well, it's
honor.
my pleasure. No, it's my pleasure. So tell me, Trina, how did you get here? What was Trina's journey like to become a Reiki master, to become a coach, an international coach federation master? I'm going to call you that. What was Trina's journey here?
Yeah, well, I think what's important for me in my journey was that I was raised in a strict religious community called the Mennonites. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Amish, but
Yes, I have. Yeah.
people often hear about the Amish
Yeah.
more than the Mennonites, but was raised in this really tight-knit community, which was great. But it was a little too confining for me. And, I was conditioned to be that good girl, compliant girl, go along to get along, not rock the boat. And that worked fairly well for me until about my 30s, when I developed thyroid cancer. And I started to think about the C word, cancer. And
Right.
I started that was kind of that wake up call that it is for many of us. Cancer and the C word began to mean to me change. And I started to look at my life and really think about what this dis-ease, as Louise Hay says in her book,
Yes.
You Can Heal Your Life. What's this about? Could this be about something else that's going on? And our thyroid's in our throat. And I began to think about, am I really using my voice? Do I feel empowered as a woman? And at that time, I was pregnant with my third child, um, was a spouse of a pastor. We had a large Mennonite congregation that we were serving. At the same time, my spouse was also dealing with a personal challenge in his life. And so, yeah, I went through my own healing journey through the surviving cancer, and then really wanted to use my gifts in coaching. I started out as a sports coach right out in my professional career, and did coached field hockey and basketball. And then I had, four of my most important coaching clients I'll ever have, four children. I was supporting my husband in his role as pastor. And then, what do I want to do? And I knew that I didn't want to go back to sports coaching, and an opportunity came that I got into career coaching. Then I went into wellness and corporate coaching. And then during that time, I became a credentialed coach, the International Coaching Federation. And more recently, then combining all those family business advising that I did into more life coaching, as I, chose to write a book about people pleasing, which has been my journey. I'm a recovering people pleaser, as I say, and
I love that.
took my book off that title, 12 Steps to Overcome People Pleasing, as a spinoff on the 12-step movement. So yeah, it's been an exciting ride. I think, every year, I just had a birthday this week, and I say the best is yet to come. And
Happy
as I
belated
grow,
birthday.
thank you. As I grow and change and evolve, I just feel like I'm becoming more and more happy. And used to be my job to make other people happy, but now it's my full-time job to pour a little love into me and my life. So that's
Well,
in a nutshell.
no, well, again, welcome. I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad
Thank you.
you're talking to us because this is I could say a touchy subject. The title of the show, which maybe I'll play around with it, but there's three ways relationships improve when we stop people pleasing. And I've done that in the past. I know I remember working at a certain area in a hospital. One of my former coworkers told me the same thing, that she had the habit of being a people pleaser. And so, Trina, let's get into that. what might be the cause? And then we'll get into the three ways that we can improve it. But
Hmm.
what are like, what is it that we get into people pleasing? Is it something that
Mm,
we got hit with in the past? Maybe we might heard rumors that, oh, so and so doesn't like you, and we want to be
mm,
loved by everybody. What would be that journey
yeah.
for some of us that get into that people pleasing
Mm.
arena?
There's lots of psychological reasons. There could be trauma in your background that, you were a people pleaser, or there could be, I know for me, it was a bargain for love. I
Mm,
believed that if I kept people happy, I would be loved. I wanted to deeply belong in my family of origin. We had a strong religious community. I wanted to belong. And, you know, our relationships are, even falling in love, we have to manage our fears. And people pleasing is one of those areas that it's uncomfortable. We don't like to, it could be that you don't like confrontation, or you don't like conflict. And so you just want to go along to get along, or you have a fear that if you rock the boat, um, somebody might reject you. You have the fear of rejection and abandonment. People pleasing was safe. It was how I hid and protected myself. And, I really didn't want people to really know me. Because I I chose to not assert my thoughts and my feelings and my preferences and my limits and my all of that. So there's many reasons, but I think it at the core is fear, which is what I talk about in my book.
yeah, we'll definitely touch base on your book soon. And you touched on something, maybe something from our past, pleasing to get love, being non confrontational, fear of rejection. I definitely agree with all that. And I know when I did that in my 30s and 40s, because I grew up with my grandparents, and when I realized when I was young, I did have a mother and father, and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, what happened here? Well,
Mm,
as I got older, my mom explained to me what happened. So that eased the burden, but that took years before she explained it. So I had that where I said to myself, shoot, maybe my mom didn't want me. Let
mm,
me count the ways I could please everybody and damn me. So
right.
um when you started noticing yourself being that way, and then when you finally decided, you know what, I'm taking, let's say, taking your life back, your
Mm,
attitude back,
mhm.
what would some of the ways did you do that?
Yeah, I think I believe the lie that people pleasing would make my relationships better. We
Right.
think that if I please people, then I'll have, more intimate relationships. And that's what I talk about in the three ways that relationships improve. And it's a lie. Our relationships really aren't better.
Mm,
People were in relationship with me, but they knew some other version of me. They didn't accurately know me. And so the one thing that I started to notice was any place where I felt like I should say yes when I really meant to say no.
mm,
And I had a friend one time tell me that people pleasers are liars. And I was like, ah, I didn't want to be called a liar. I didn't want anybody to think that I wasn't an honest person. But she said, you say yes when you mean no, and you say it's okay when it's not okay. And that was really like a punch in the gut to me. Um, and I know people pleasers, there's people who people please to keep the peace in their homes because of a chaotic home environment. And so, this can be a touchy thing to be called a liar as a people pleaser, but it
right.
really was a wake up call for me to think about the shoulds. I should do this, and also try to be a little bit more honest.
Mm,
Just being a little bit more real, opening the door a little bit to asserting your thoughts and your feelings, your preferences. I have, as I mentioned, I have 4 kids, and I wouldn't let them get away with, um, where do you want to go to eat? And they were like, whatever, wherever. No, what do you what would you like? Because I know you don't like want to go to, the diner down the street. So what is your
right.
preference? Assert yourself. And that's another area that to start really asserting your thoughts and your opinions with safe people, because not everybody's safe to share those thoughts. So if you're just starting out and you want to start to make changes, do small steps with safe people.
Mm.
Assert your thoughts, opinions, and preferences with safe people.
I remember I was talking to a buddy of mine. This is maybe a couple of years ago, maybe might have been even longer. And we were talking about that when it came to certain women that we felt that we couldn't be ourselves because we wanted to, make them happy. And we would find um that at a drop of a hat, that woman would just go crazy, and I hate to say that word, but in terms of we were walking on eggshells
Right.
because I know I did that. Like I said, my God, this is like maybe 8 to 10 years ago, give or take, when I was in my late 40s. And I felt that I'm like, geez, I can't, tell this woman anything because she's going to just jump down my throat. And after a while, it took a while for me, Trina, that I finally said, you know what, enough was enough, because
Yes.
I was miserable.
Right.
I was miserable. So when we encounter that in ourselves, being miserable, can you guide us through a couple of ways that we can um, assert ourselves, but without setting the other person off, or not even giving a
Mhm.
damn if we set that other
Mhm.
person off?
That's the key right there. You have to tolerate less. And you made a good point. You have to start recognizing that if somebody can't handle who we are, they're not the right person for us. And,
Mm.
you know, I became unmarried a couple years ago and started dating back into the dating world. And I have been determined that I am not going to betray myself in any way. If someone can't handle my preferences or what I, feel or what works or doesn't work for me, then they can reject me.
Right.
Because I know that if I'm rejected, I'll only be redirected. That's
Mm.
one of my favorite lines. And we don't need to be afraid of being rejected because we will be redirected to something better for us.
I love
And
that.
it's a really great practice to say, you know what? No relationship is worth betraying myself over.
Mm.
And we can't think that someday they're going to accept that. If they're not accepting who we are in the first couple months, they're not our person.
Right.
If
So
we
we
have
have
to
to
walk
recognize that, but we have to recognize that, and we have to realize, hey, so we have to be self-aware of what's happening
exactly.
in our surroundings.
Exactly. And being self-aware to say that we can't fall in love with potential. We can't think that someday they're going to accept me. If they're not accepting me in this falling in love stage, they're probably not going to think too much of you. I mean, not that things change, but it's a pretty important. And you mentioned it, as people pleasers, we walk on eggshells and we're overly accommodating
Yeah.
to others. And
Well,
that's a sign. That's a sign that maybe something's off.
it's funny. I remember. Well, I just wanted to go back. That I love what you just said. Can't fall in love with potential. I mean, that's a tweetable phrase right there. Can't fall in love with potential.
Right.
So if you could go, let's talk about the three ways that we can improve ourselves. Because I think that is so important. Like I said, I've been around some of my friends, or like I said, my former coworker, and I would tell her, I'm like, hey, you look out for yourself once in a while, because I
Hmm.
saw it, and I remember there were times when my boss would ask me certain things. And at the time I would say yes. But then one day I said, no, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be
Right.
transferred. I don't want to go here. I had to do it
Hmm.
because, unfortunately, I'm not protected by a union or anything like that. But I stated my case. You know what I mean?
Yes. Right.
And I would tell her that, my friend, that I'm like, state your case.
State your
Nothing's gonna,
case.
yeah, state your case, how you feel and all that. So let's talk about the three ways. So let's go from 3 to 1, if that's possible.
Yeah. Well, I think the by being more real, it gives somebody else permission to also open up.
Mm.
To be a little bit more honest. It allows us to feel closer to someone. I'm learning that while I avoid conflict and confrontation, when I do it, when I state my case,
Mhm.
it actually, if it's the person is a mature person and growing themselves, it makes us feel closer to each other. If we can see it
Mm.
as a doorway into more understanding of each other. So when we're more real, it allows other people to be more real.
And it doesn't have to be confrontational. It's just could be just a typical A to B conversation.
Yeah, it can be like I don't want to get together tonight.
Simple as that. I like that. Okay, so we got be real. In other words, be honest, non-confrontational, just having a normal conversation. What would be number two?
It builds trust. When being honest, builds trust. They know, as Brene Brown says, clear is kind. When we're clear, it's kind. And in that sense, it builds trust with other people. It's hard to love someone if you don't trust them. So if you have a people pleaser who you don't really know where they stand or what they think or who they are, it's hard to accurately know them and to love them.
Mm, wow. That wow, that was deep. You caught me off guard because I was like, wait a minute, I don't even have an answer for that.
Well, trust is the foundation of all relationships. And if you don't, if you're not sure if the person's really being honest with you, if they say yes and they mean no, or they say it's okay when it's not okay, that doesn't build trust. Or,
Mm,
if they say yes and then in a fight down the road they throw it back in your face that that's really not what they meant, that breaks trust. And so when we can be honest, it allows other people to accurately know us. And when they accurately know us, that's a kind thing. That's, clear as kind.
okay, so we got become more real, which is being honest, build
Hmm.
trust, right? So we're
Hmm.
talking like, hey,
Right.
this is how I feel, this is what I want to do. And if you're on board, great. If you're not, then this is still how I feel.
Right. Right.
Definitely not break
Right.
our new tradition of being a pleaser. And what would be
Right.
number one?
The number one is that I think we all long for connection, right? And what is connection? Another word for connection is intimacy.
Mm.
And sex is not intimacy. It's part of it. It's
Yeah.
part of it. But I like Matthew Kelly in his book, 12 levels of, or excuse me, 7 levels of intimacy. He takes that word intimacy and says, into me see,
Ah.
into me see. And so our greatest need is to be known and loved. It's one of our greatest needs is for someone to know us. And if they know us and they still love us,
That's a
woo,
plus.
that's a not even a plus, that's a big, big bonus. So, I think as we can really have true intimacy when we let another person see us. And that takes time to build that with someone. I was in a long-term marriage and even that, doesn't mean that the years meant intimacy, right? So
Right.
we really have to allow somebody else to see us. And his third level of intimacy, first it's cliches, right? Hi, how are you? Next, how was your day? The third level of intimacy in his book is opinions. Can you share
Mm.
opinions with each other? And some people never get past the first and second level because as a people pleaser, to share your opinion, it can be challenging.
Yeah. So we're not being authentic if we're not sharing opinions. We're just hearing the other person's opinion and just
We're agreeing with
we're
them
agreeing and
and
not even saying disagreeing, but at least sharing our opinion. This is what I think. This is what I would like to do. This is what
yes.
yeah. So touch base a little bit on that more about sharing our opinions. Are there ways again, it's not looking to be confrontational. And if we find out that the person that we like or love is not in tune with us in our opinions, is it possible that we might have selected someone that's not for us? Is
I
that
mean,
a,
there's
a
that always
harsh
you can
statement?
agree.
Yeah.
What's that? Say that
I'm
again.
saying, I'm saying, is that a harsh statement to say that we're not, maybe this is not the person for us at this moment?
I I mean, I guess you have to, consider what that opinion is.
Okay.
Religion and politics might be a hot topic there. But, maybe that's a good starting point. What do they think about your opinions and basic things of what kind of food you like or
Right.
how you like to vacation or, things like that. And before you get into more bigger opinions. But I mean, I think it's always I would like to say in relationships, how does the other person make you feel?
Mm,
If I share an opinion, do they honor that opinion, even if it's different than theirs? Or do they put me
right.
down for that opinion? And so it's another, just to be in tune to the other person and how they make you feel, even when you share opinions.
Wow, we're talking with Trina Stutzman, life coach. Some of these are such eye openers. Again, being non confrontational. Fear of rejection. I think that's always, I guess, the top of everybody's list is fear of rejection. When you could just get used to that, and I hate to say it that way, but as I forgot where I heard this from, but the more no's you get, you're getting that closer to that yes. Yes, go ahead, please.
No, wonderful point. I think for people pleasers, it's hard for us to know what we want because
Right.
we're so we so give up what we want for others. And so I kind of say to work backwards. Like when I started dating, I saw it as an opportunity to find out what I don't want.
Mm,
And seeing those rejection is it's not each person that I dated, and I didn't date a ton, but enough to figure out what I did want. And then I turned that into kind of a dating manifesto and saying, this is what I'm looking for.
wow. So you
And
realize your power and what do you
yeah,
want?
and
And yeah,
being clear. I mean, I want to be able to express my opinions. I need somebody that's curious about my thoughts and my feelings. I need somebody who's going to let me process as I talk out loud or whatever it is. But getting clear about what it is you do want, I think is really a difficult challenge for people pleasers because, like I said, even sharing an opinion can be challenging if you've never really thought for yourself, because we're
right.
so used to being chameleons and blending in and
Not
not
rocking the
really
boat. Yeah, I get you. Wow.
going along to get along. and
Yeah.
and this doesn't mean to just go out and just assert your opinion in every conversation. I
You got
think
to pick and
it's
choose. Yeah, I got you.
yeah, because not everybody, especially for people pleasers, it's a new dance we're doing,
Yeah.
and it's awkward and it's clumsy and it's can be extremely uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable work to deal with somebody else's disappointment in us if we say no, or when they're used to us always going along. So it's uncomfortable, but it's really it's healthy.
Right.
And if
No,
you can
yeah,
think
I'm sorry.
about the growth and the health that will come as a result of, you know, stepping into your power in essence and saying, this is me, this is
Mm,
me. Yeah, I'm a Reiki master. That kind of goes, not that it's goes against my religious upbringing, but I've been challenged about its, origins and whether it's maybe too woo woo or whatever it is. But this is me, and this is how I find it meaningful to help and serve people. So it's it's uh it's easy. It was easier to hide, and then I decided to write a book and share my story in that in a in a big way. So
Yeah, no, well, let's touch on that book. I mean, first of all, Trina, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your busy to be on People on Dating. I appreciate it so much. So, first of all, before we go to the book, talk about more of your services that you provide.
yes, I offer one-on-one coaching. I've been doing that for I've owned my own business for over 10 years, so I do one-on-one coaching. I also recently started doing group coaching with my book.
Mhm.
Um, so going through the 12 steps in that book, it's a six session uh, group session that is happening. So that's also, you can find all this information out on my website, trinastutzman.com. And yeah, my book came out in March, and one of the most proudest accomplishments I've had. I love to write. I've been kind of a closet writer for a long time, but it was really a way for me as a people pleaser to figure out what I thought, and it was an opportunity to stand up against and for something in my writing. So yeah, writing was big part of my journey since high school. So the book is kind of part stories. There's some great reflection questions in there, uh, some poems, some parts from my journal, and some personal stories to illustrate each step. So yeah, thank
Yeah, no,
you
I'll definitely
for
put that on the
letting me
show
talk
notes.
about that. My
Yeah.
labor of love. my letter to the world.
So wait a minute. Let's say I missed it. What's the name of the book? Let's talk
12
about.
steps to overcome people pleasing.
Gotcha. Yeah, I definitely want to put that in the show notes because I think this is definitely very important. And tell us where people could find you. Tell us that website again.
My website is Trina Stutzman, my name, trinastutzman.com. That you can also find me on Instagram and Facebook by that same name. And the book is sold on Amazon and local bookstores.
Well, sounds good. Well, again, Trina, I appreciate you so much for coming on to the show. I definitely learned a lot, and again, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you, Will.
Yeah, my pleasure. Bye bye. Well, everyone, that was Trina Stutzman, and you can find her at trinastutzman.com. Trina, thank you so much for being on People on Dating. Much appreciated. You can find me on peopleondating.com. That's peopleondating.com. Check out our past shows and check out our blog. Also, please go to our YouTube channel, People on Dating. Please subscribe, leave a review, share it, like it. Please, please, please. Also, you can find me on Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Anyway, guys, on behalf of People on Dating, I'm Will Morales. Until next time, thanks, everybody. Have a great day. And remember, it's just a conversation, no judgment. Bye.